One of the most interesting aspects of this case, as far as I'm concerned, has been to watch and observe two people with courage fighting a case, and to see that even with limited resources, even unable to bring all the evidence you want to court, you can win significant victories through a belief in what you're saying, a belief in free speech, and the courage to continually put your case forward. Dave and Helen are an extraordinary couple, in my opinion. When I first met them, they really didn't know very much about the law at all, and they certainly didn't know very much about libel law. But they've worked away and grappled away with mountains of evidence and really difficult legal concepts. And between them, they form now a very good team. And now if we have a discussion about a point that's cropped up, or we have to draft something, they're very quick with the arguments, and they're able to draft stuff on their own and argue it on their own. And I think they'll make very good lawyers when they've finished. I've been encouraging them to do that. The inside view on the trial and legal profession is that this case shows the absurdity of the libel laws, and that after this case things are going to have to change. You cannot have the longest case in civil history, and in all likelihood criminal history, where one side has a top legal team and the others have no resources whatsoever. So whatever the result, this case will change the future of libel law. One of the problems with the law as it is now, i.e. that there's no legal aid for defendants and you have to have a lot of money to hire libel lawyers, is that there's a tendency on the part of those that have a lot of money to suppress criticism from those that don't, because it's not a question of whether you're telling the truth or not that matters. It's whether you have the courage or the money to defend what you say in court. And in my experience, many people who can back up what they're saying, nevertheless don't defend themselves in libel proceedings because they fear the costs so much. One striking part of this case has been the extent to which McDonald's have been prepared to infiltrate the group London Greenpeace to find out information, and the full picture has only emerged as the case has gone on. And it's quite clear that McDonald's put spies within the group who were collating all sorts of information. It emerged also that those people were playing their full part in the group and were doing everything that it's alleged Dave and Helen were doing to promote the leaflet in question, including handing it out and putting it in envelopes. And at that point it became obvious that they were fully participating, and that therefore they ought to play their part in paying any damages, if there are any, to McDonald's. One of the important aspects of the case is that many of the issues were not widely debated 10-15 years ago, but they are now. An example is junk food. That's a major public interest issue these days. The profile's been raised by people such as Dave and Helen, and it's notable that the EU is now beginning to take notice and take action, and is threatening that it may even contemplate legislation to deal with advertising of junk food to children if the industry doesn't regulate itself in the near future. Dave and Helen's case has always been very important to me from when I first met them, and working with them through the difficult days of the trial. It's extremely important that it's gone all the way to the European Court of Human Rights, and it'll be one of the most important decisions that court makes. It'll be a landmark for them and for me. McDonald's can never have dreamt, when they decided to bring proceedings against protesters on a Saturday afternoon in North London, that they were going to end up 15 years later with a case in the European Court of Human Rights, the most important and influential court in the whole of Europe, with a major challenge to the entire libel laws, and 15 years of adverse publicity for McDonald's. It's important to appreciate that if the European Court finds that David Helen's trial was unfair, the government can't ignore that judgment. It's got to do something about it, and it must therefore think about changing the law itself to put right whatever the European Court has said caused the problem. If David Helen win in Strasbourg and the government is forced to respond by changing the law, that will be a major victory, not only for David Helen but for everybody that's argued for many years that the libel laws inhibit free speech. It'll be tremendous vindication of 15 years of legal struggle. When you have a legal system that doesn't operate fairly because there's a huge imbalance between the parties, justice could never be achieved, however hard the individual judge tries in any particular case. And that's why the proceedings in Strasbourg are a challenge really to the system rather than a challenge to the decision of the individual judge in the High Court. One of the ways in which this case has affected me is in the way it's humbled me and other lawyers. It shows that ordinary individuals committed to their cause can grapple with legal issues that we pretend are very complicated and can win against the odds. So it's been very important to me as an individual and as a lawyer in that way.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of death row work, cases from the Caribbean, and we've established some really important principles there about not sentencing everybody to death. I also got made a Queen's Counsel, which is odd since I often used to propose the abolition of the monarchy.
Did you win any awards? I believe you did.
I was awarded the Human Rights Law of the Year in 1990. No, in 2000. Do you want to do that again?